My breath caught as her fingers traced the curve of my hip, pulling me closer in the dim light of the room, our bodies entwined in a rhythm that felt both urgent and eternal. The sheets tangled around us like forgotten banners from a protest, and I could feel the heat of her skin against mine, every inch alive with the spark that had ignited between us weeks ago. Her touch was insistent yet tender, exploring the softness of my thighs, drawing me into a haze where the world outside faded, leaving only the pulse of our shared desire. I arched into her, my hands gripping her shoulders, feeling the strength she'd honed from carrying signs and marching through crowds, now channeled into this intimate dance. As she moved lower, her breath warm against my neck, a shiver ran through me, building to that exquisite edge where control slipped away. Down there, where our bodies met in the most vulnerable way, she knew exactly how to unravel me, her movements slow and deliberate, coaxing waves of pleasure that made my thoughts blur into pure sensation. It was in these moments that I remembered how it all began, not in a bed like this, but in the chaos of a rally, our eyes locking amid the chants for justice. The way her hand had brushed mine then, accidental yet electric, mirrored the intentional caresses now, her body pressing against mine, our legs intertwining until I couldn't tell where I ended and she began. My chest tightened with each gasp, our hearts sinking in a frantic beat, and as the intensity peaked, I clung to her, riding the crest of release that washed over us both. In the afterglow, as our breathing slowed, I traced the lines of her face, wondering how activism had led us here, to this profound connection that transcended the cause we fought for. The room smelled of rain-soaked earth from the storm outside, mirroring the turbulence we'd faced together, but in this space, it was just us, two women bound by more than ideology. Her hair fell across my shoulder, soft and wild, and I buried my face in it, inhaling the faint scent of lavender that always clung to her, a reminder of the quiet moments we'd stolen amid the frenzy. My mind wandered back to that first touch, how it had lingered longer than necessary, igniting a curiosity that grew into longing. Even now, with her body curled against mine, I felt the pull of that initial spark, the way our shared passion for equality had woven into something deeply personal. Her fingers interlaced with mine, a simple gesture that grounded me, and I let myself sink into the warmth, my thoughts drifting to the marches where we'd stood side by side, shoulders brushing, voices uniting in a chorus of change. But here, in the intimacy of night, those memories fueled a different fire, one that burned slow and deep, her touch reigniting embers I didn't know existed. As she shifted closer, her leg draping over mine, a fresh wave of desire stirred, subtle at first, then insistent, drawing us back into the dance. Down there again, where vulnerability met trust, she guided me with a knowing gentleness, building tension until I shattered once more, her presence the anchor in my storm. It was addictive, this blend of activism and affection, how fighting for the world had led to fighting for each other's hearts. In the quiet that followed, I held her, our bodies still humming, and realized this was no fleeting encounter. It was the beginning of something transformative, born from shared ideals and blooming into love. As the haze of that night lingered in my mind, I couldn't help but rewind to how it all started, the slow unraveling of walls that led to such raw intimacy. I first noticed her at the environmental rally in the city square, her presence commanding amid the sea of placards and fervent voices. She was tall, with a cascade of dark curls framing a face etched with determination, her eyes a piercing green that seemed to hold the fire of every injustice she'd ever fought. I was there alone, my sign reading equality for all hoisted high, my heart pounding from the energy of the crowd. When our paths crossed during a group chant, her shoulder brushed mine, and in that instant, a spark ignited subtle, like the first flicker of dawn. She turned, her gaze meeting mine, and though no words passed, I felt seen, truly seen, in a way that made my pulse quicken. From then on, I found myself drawn to her side, our bodies naturally aligning as we marched, her arm occasionally grazing mine, sending tingles that I dismissed as adrenaline at first. Over the following weeks, our encounters grew from coincidental to intentional, bonding over late-night strategy sessions in dimly lit cafes where the air hummed with passion for the cause. I'd watch her hands as she sketched out protest plans, strong and graceful, imagining how they might feel against my skin. My thoughts wandered to forbidden territories, wondering if she felt the same pull, the way our knees touched under the table, lingering longer each time. One evening, as rain pelted the windows, we stayed after everyone left, our conversation shifting from tactics to personal stories. I shared my fears of burnout, the loneliness of fighting alone, and she listened with an intensity that made me feel exposed yet safe. Her hand reached across the table, covering mine in a gesture of solidarity, but the warmth that spread through me was anything but platonic. That touch evolved into more, brushing hair from my face during a heated debate, her fingers lingering on my cheek, igniting a slow burn that mirrored the activism we shared. The romance sparked subtly, like embers catching in dry tinder during a weekend retreat for activists. We shared a cabin, the space small and intimate, forcing closeness that thrilled and terrified me. As night fell, we lay on separate bunks, but the air crackled with unspoken tension. I could hear her breathing, steady and close, and my mind raced with images of crossing the room, of feeling her body against mine. Eventually, I did, slipping into her bed under the pretense of cold, our legs intertwining naturally, her arm draping over my waist. The contact was electric, my chest tightening as our bodies pressed together, warmth seeping through thin fabrics. Down there, where our hips met, a subtle friction built as we shifted, drawing soft gasps that hung in the air. We didn't rush. Instead, we explored with tentative touches, her hand sliding under my shirt to trace my back, pulling me closer until our breaths mingled. It was in that vulnerability that I felt the chemistry deepen, her presence unraveling my defenses, revealing a longing I'd buried under layers of advocacy. Our connection grew through shared victories and setbacks, like the day we chained ourselves to a fence protesting corporate greed, our bodies linked not just by metal, but by an invisible thread. Adrenaline surged as authorities approached, but her proximity grounded me, her thigh pressing against mine in solidarity. Afterward, in the release of tension, we found a quiet alley, her backing me against the wall, our foreheads touching in a moment of relief. That evolved into our first kiss, soft at first, her lips brushing mine tentatively, then deepening with the pent-up emotion of the day. The taste of her, salty from sweat and sweet from chapstick, lingered long after, fueling nights where we'd steal away to parks, hands clasped under moonlight, bodies leaning into each other. Each touch built on the last, her fingers intertwining with mine during walks, or resting on my knee during meetings, sending sparks that promised more. Intimacy wove through our activism like a secret code, moments where we'd pause in the fray, her hand on my lower back guiding me through crowds, the pressure intimate and reassuring. One night, after a grueling march, we collapsed on my couch, exhaustion giving way to tenderness. Her head rested on my shoulder, and as I stroked her hair, she turned, our lips meeting in a kiss that carried the weight of our shared struggles. It escalated slowly, her body shifting to straddle mine, our chests pressing together, hearts racing in unison. Hands explored under shirts, tracing curves and eliciting shivers, building to a peak where we synced in quiet release, her touch down there gentle yet insistent. These encounters deepened our bond, turning activism into a canvas for romance, where every protest felt like foreplay to the nights we'd spend entwined, discovering each other anew. As our romance blossomed amid the rallies and late-night vigils, a shift began to creep in, subtle at first like a cloud edging over the sun. We'd grown inseparable, our bodies finding ways to connect even in public, her hand slipping into mine during speeches, or our legs crossing under conference tables, the friction a private thrill amid the public fight. But one evening, during a high-stakes planning meeting for a major demonstration against discriminatory policies, I noticed a hesitation in her movements, a distant look in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She pulled away slightly when I reached for her, her touch less lingering, and my heart tightened with unease. That night, as we lay together, our limbs entwined in the familiar warmth, I felt the change more acutely, her body responsive yet her mind elsewhere, as if the cause we loved was pulling her in a direction I couldn't follow. The twist came abruptly during the demonstration itself, a chaotic swirl of banners and chants under glaring floodlights. We were at the forefront, arms linked with others, but as tensions escalated with counter-protesters closing in, she broke away to confront a particularly aggressive group, her passion overriding caution. I watched in horror as she stepped forward alone, her figure defiant yet vulnerable, and in that moment, fear gripped me, not just for her safety, but for us. When the clash turned physical, pushes turning to shoves, she was caught in the fray, a blow glancing her shoulder. I rushed to her side, pulling her back, our bodies colliding in the melee, but the adrenaline-fueled kiss we shared in the aftermath tasted of desperation rather than desire. Later, in the quiet of my apartment, as I tended to her bruise, my hands gentle on her skin, tracing the mark with a mix of tenderness and anger, I realized the twist. Her deepening commitment to the cause was eclipsing our romance, risking everything we'd built. That realization unraveled me, our intimacy that night charged with urgency, her touch down there more fervent, as if compensating for the growing divide. But as we peaked together, bodies sinking in release, my thoughts swirled with doubt. Could our love survive if activism demanded sacrifices we weren't ready for? The next days blurred into arguments unspoken, her absences lengthening for solo missions, leaving me alone with my insecurities. One afternoon, during a solitary walk in the park where we'd first kissed, I found a note she'd left earlier, hinting at a dangerous undercover role she'd accepted without telling me. The betrayal stung, twisting the knife of our shared passion into something painful. Our next encounter was electric with tension, bodies coming together in a storm of emotion, legs crossing and pressing in ways that blurred pleasure and pain, but the afterglow brought tears instead of peace. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this story, hit subscribe to Sapphic Tales so you don't miss the next one. The conflict deepened like a gathering storm, our once seamless bond fraying under the weight of unspoken fears and external pressures. Her undercover role pulled her further away, nights stretching empty without her warmth beside me, my bed feeling vast and cold. I'd lie awake, tracing the ghost of her touch on my skin, longing for the way her fingers had once explored every curve, igniting fires that now smoldered unfulfilled. When she did return, our reunions were intense, bodies crashing together in desperate need, legs entwining and chests tightening as we sought solace down there, where vulnerability met raw desire. But each peak left a hollow ache, her eyes distant even as we unraveled in sync, the cause casting shadows over our intimacy. Internal fears gnawed at me, doubts about my own commitment, wondering if I was holding her back from the heroism she craved. During a rare shared meal, our knees brushing under the table, I felt the pull of old chemistry, but her preoccupation with upcoming risks turned tenderness to tension. One evening, as we walked hand in hand through rain-slicked streets, a sudden argument brewed in silence, her grip tightening then releasing, symbolizing the push-pull of our hearts. That night, in the heat of reconciliation, her hands slid under my shirt, pulling me close, our bodies aligning in a dance of forgiveness, but the emotional stakes rose with every touch, fear of loss amplifying the pleasure. External obstacles mounted too. The movement faced backlash, threats escalating, forcing us into hiding spots where intimacy became both refuge and risk. In a secluded, safe house, we fell into each other, her body pressing mine against the wall, legs crossing in urgent friction, building to shattering release. Yet, whispers of danger infiltrated even those moments, her sharing vulnerabilities about past heartbreaks tied to activism, deepening my own insecurities. Grief from a fellow activist's arrest hit us hard, drawing us closer in shared pain, our heads resting on shoulders, tears mingling as we held on. But it also highlighted our differences. I craved stability, while she thrived on the edge, creating a chasm that widened with each protest. The tension peaked during a covert operation where I insisted on joining her, our bodies brushing in the shadows, adrenaline fueling a stolen kiss that tasted of fear and hope. Down there, in hurried moments of closeness, we found temporary unity, but the operation's near failure, sirens blaring as we fled, amplified my terror of losing her. Back home, as we collapsed entwined, limbs tangled and hearts pounding, I unraveled my walls, exposing raw longing mixed with anger. Our intimacy that night was a battlefield, touches both healing and hurtful, sinking to peaks that left us breathless yet unresolved. The emotional escalation built layers of complexity, our romance a fragile flame amid the inferno of justice, each conflict drawing us deeper into love's turbulent depths. The crisis erupted like a dam breaking, all the pent-up fears and conflicts crashing over us in one devastating wave. It happened during the Pinnacle event, a massive rally against systemic inequality, where thousands gathered, banners waving like battle flags. She was at the center, her voice amplified through the megaphone in my mind's echo. But as chaos unfolded with clashes intensifying, I lost sight of her in the crowd. Panic surged through me, my heart pounding as I pushed through bodies, calling out silently in my thoughts. When I found her, cornered by aggressors, her defiance cracking under pressure, I threw myself into the fray, our hands linking in a desperate grasp. The blow that struck her sent us both tumbling, pain radiating through my side. But in that moment, our bodies collided in protective embrace, legs tangling as we fell, the world narrowing to just us. In the aftermath, rushed to a makeshift medical tent, the emotional high turned to a shattering low. As I held her hand, her bruise blooming purple, tears streamed down my face, the fear of goodbye overwhelming. She looked at me with eyes full of regret, and in that vulnerability, our connection peaked, bodies leaning into each other on the cot, chests tightening with unspoken confessions. The crisis deepened as news came of arrests, including close allies, amplifying the sense of loss. That night, in a hidden motel, we confronted the breakdown, our intimacy a raw confession without words. Her touch was tentative at first, brushing hair back, then escalating as we sought release from the pain, legs crossing and pressing down there, sinking to a peak that shattered my composure, tears mixing with ecstasy. The emotional unraveling continued through whispered thoughts in the dark, her head on my shoulder as we lay entwined, sharing fears of the movement's toll on us. A turning point came when I realized I couldn't lose her, my hands exploring her body with renewed urgency, pulling her close until our hearts synced in vulnerable rhythm. But the crisis hit its nadir when she confessed in actions her intent to go deeper undercover, her body pulling away even as we peaked together, leaving me in a void of heartbreak. Just a quick pause. If you're enjoying this, hit that subscribe button and stay with us here on Sapphic Tales. If it kept you hooked, subscribe now to Sapphic Tales so you never miss the next. In the wake of that shattering crisis, a quiet transformation began, like dawn breaking after an endless night. We retreated to a secluded cabin, away from the rallies and threats, allowing space for healing. Our bodies, bruised but resilient, found solace in gentle touches, hands interlacing during walks through misty forests, legs brushing as we sat by the fire. The intimacy rebuilt slowly, her fingers tracing my scars with tenderness, drawing me into embraces where our chests tightened in sync, down there rediscovering the rhythm of trust. Each kiss soft on the forehead, lingering on lips, sealed cracks in our bond, turning pain into profound connection. Reconciliation unfolded through shared silences, our first night together in true peace, falling asleep entwined, her arm over my waist, warmth seeping into my soul. In the vulnerability of dawn, we explored anew, bodies aligning in a dance of affirmation, peaking together in waves of release that whispered promises of forever. The activism that had sparked our romance now evolved into a balanced force, us fighting side by side with renewed purpose, hands holding under tables, heads on shoulders during quiet moments. Reflecting now, I see how our journey, from that initial spark amid chance to the depths of crisis, forged a love unbreakable, where justice and equality mirrored the equity in our hearts. In her arms, I found not just passion, but home, our synced hearts beating in harmony. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this story, hit subscribe to Sapphic Tales so you don't miss the next one.